The year, ladies and gentlemen, is 2024, and this is Team No Sleep, January 3rd. That right there, that's Montel Allen. What's going on with you, brother?
Now that's the big brother James Hicks right there. Oh, I'm pointing the
Where
other
you
way.
pointing? Who you
There
pointing
you
at,
go, right
man?
there. Yeah, you everywhere, so I got to point both ways. You know what I mean?
Listen.
You all
We
over,
gonna
you all over
that's how we
social
gonna
media.
be. That's how we gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah,
this 2024. So we gonna be everywhere. First and foremost, I asked you where yours was, but I got mine on. Y'all see the
yeah.
new?
I have mine. It's in my
Okay.
hat collection. I wasn't able to grab it out because I was running late, so I grabbed the first hat I could
That's all
get to
right.
get on.
That's all right. You know, we got the embroidered Team No Sleep merchandise and in the store. Y'all want to pick it up, go right ahead on up. You know what? I'm going to be nice. I'm going to go ahead and put the promo code up there too so y'all can get it at a little bit of a discount.
Yes, sir.
Seniors in the building, appreciate you, sir. The show is officially going. Our most loyal community member, Shirley, is in the building. Appreciate you for
Yeah,
being here
yeah.
as well, our friend. So listen, man, let's go and get into it. We got a couple of things that we want to talk about. And hopefully the other member of the community who brought up some concerns about some sports topics will be here to join us tonight so we can have a conversation around the topic as well. Marvin Starr, appreciate you, man. Glad you are here, brother, as well. Listen, so Montel, you brought up something to me earlier today about rule changes within the sporting world. And we've talked about this story. We've talked about this topic since, oh my gosh, 2 years?
Yep.
At least 2 years. I'm gonna bring it on the screen here, right here. So we've talked about, and literally 10 minutes before we went live just now, I had a conversation with my wife and my son about our feelings around this whole mentality right here, and the fact that transgender athletes are real. Transgender athletes are a force to be reckoned with and recognized, and someone has to make a decision in terms of how we, I don't know, how do we deal with them, right? Because there has to be some type of rules, regulations, there has to be some type of classification, there has to be just an acknowledgement of this
Yep.
person when they're out there. But this one right here, I don't know how I feel about this. Well, I know how I feel.
Yeah.
But so as you guys can see from the headline, USA Boxing allows men to fight women with new transgender guidelines. That's a heck of a byline right there, because when I read that, men fight women, I immediately
Yeah.
pause and say, this can't happen. This can't happen. But talk to me about just reading that headline and your initial thoughts on this. And folks in the comments, go ahead and chime in as well. I'll put the link into the description of this story as well. But talk to me about your feelings when you read this right here, because this is that next evolution of the same conversation that we've been having for a very long time.
I don't agree with it. I haven't agreed with it since day one, and I still don't agree with it. I believe transgenders need to carve out their own lane to fight against each other because I think they have an unfair advantage. This is to me is amazing with U.S. boxing because you'll allow them to fight in the U.S. boxing and compete in that level, but you will not allow them to participate in the Olympics because the Olympics are not allowing it as of right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what I don't know if this is. I'm not sure what they're trying to get out of this. Like, the philosophy is to insert a transgender, level or league or category. Just like you have middleweight, lightweight, so on and so on. You transgenders fight against other transgenders, so there's no physical advantage. But the U.S. boxing obviously feels either desperate or they feel they need to. I don't know. I'm not sure why they would do this as of right now. I don't. I mean,
There's more
it doesn't make.
questions than answers,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
you keep saying I don't know, and you keep saying you shrugging. I think that's the whole crux of it right there. There's
yeah,
more questions than answers about this story and the
yeah.
situation than anything. Yeah, USA Boxing is trying to put in some regulations saying you have to be at a certain stage of the transition process, right? They're measuring
Yeah.
testosterone levels and things of that nature. But go ahead.
But doesn't take away bone structure and muscle mass, which are
There you
both
go.
very important in boxing. You know what I mean? If your bone structure is significantly stronger and your muscle mass is stronger than the person you're playing against, just because of the way you biologically was raised or you biologically were born, then there's a problem because you have an unfair advantage. It's just like steroids. So we're gonna allow women boxers to start taking steroids to level the playing field. I mean, you gotta
That question has to be asked.
yeah, it's gonna be this right here is precedent, and I get it, and I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to say fall everybody under the umbrella. I think it's also more for publicity, right? To get U.S. boxing known out there to be able to have it. But the bottom line is, people want to say we're all equal, but we're not. We're different. We are different. Black, white, purple, orange, green, we're different. Male, female, transgender, we're different. In every other sport, we have different categories for those. So there's an even playing field. There should be no transgender just can't integrate with anyone else. Integrate just to say, hey, we're part of it, because it gives them an unfair advantage. And we've seen it over every sport that they participated in. So I'm not understanding what the U.S. boxing is trying to do with that. I would believe the female boxers in that arena will appeal their decision, and go from there. Some will try to fight a transgender. Some may even win. You may win because boxing is a skill set.
True.
May even win, but doesn't take away the fact that they still have an unfair advantage, regardless.
Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think it needs to be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was looking at Marvin's comment, right? See if it's a transition from a man to a woman versus a woman to a man. But does that matter? So, I mean, I asked that question as well, right? Regardless of which way I'll say that you're going. And because I always think back to, we started this conversation off 2 years ago with the swimmer, right? The dude, and I forgot his name, but, he was losing when he was swimming against other guys. And then started, identified as a female, so started going through the transition process, and then was out there racing women, and of course he was leaving them in the dust. But again, his bone structure, his lean body mass, all that. So
I think to Marvin's question, though, we haven't had a problem with it being female to male. We haven't had that cross that a former female becomes a male and now wants to compete at that level, in a sport. Where it's competitive, especially a physical sport. We haven't had it yet. I'm sure they're out there, but we just haven't seen it yet, or hasn't been publicized yet. But we have seen a dominance of former men becoming women, and they're dominating the sport. They're dominating. They are. The swimmer's dominating. He broke the record in his first year in collegiate.
Right.
We saw when they tried to do a UFC, that transgender, she unfortunately destroyed that woman that he fought against. We're seeing it in all these facets, and we knew that was going to grow. Right, this is going to be a growing thing. I think they need to carve out their own lane for them to compete against each other, so there is no unfair advantage. We're seeing, and I think, remember, we're getting ready to go on our second realm around high school, right?
Yes.
Track and all these things. We're about to see a lot of explosion stories of these coming out. I guarantee you. Whether it be track, we had it with the wrestling. Remember the kid that was a wrestler? He
had it with the wrestling. Yep.
Yeah. So it's got to be. High school, college, any professional are going to have to do something to address it. You don't want to exclude anybody, but you can't include everybody either. We don't do it now. We don't include everybody when it comes to competitive sports. The best make it. If there was a female that played baseball, she was the best, she would break the barrier and she would be playing professional baseball. It would be. If they found a female that can throw a ball 100 miles per hour, 105 miles per hour, they will find a place for her to be on that field. I promise you.
That's true. We got women out there punting and kicking, right, in football, so they can get
at
out
the
there.
Collegiate level, at the collegiate level,
they can get out there and do that. I have a problem. I do. Maybe it's the headline. Again, the headline: USA boxing allows men to fight women. Right. I can't wrap my head around that. I can't get around that. And I don't have a problem. And I was telling my wife and my son this 20 minutes ago. I don't have a problem with folks identifying as someone else. I have a concern about the equity and the fairness, and I don't even know if those are the right words, but the equity and the fairness of any of these sports where there's a mix of biological genders. Now, again, if you've already crossed through a certain stage of the medical process, and right, again, I'm stumbling on my words because I want to make sure I don't say anything.
I don't think that matters. You know why I don't think that matters? Because if I used to take steroids. Okay, but I took steroids to give myself an unfair advantage. I had, and probably still have an unfair advantage. A person that used to be a man still has an unfair advantage competing in the women's sports.
That same thing my son just said. That's literally the same thing my son said a few minutes ago.
It's the physical makeup. It has nothing to do with anything else. And I think it's just sad that we can't create another lane, and yet we're trying to integrate, and we can create another lane and make everybody happy. You can still make everyone happy.
I don't think there's anything wrong with creating another lane, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And
there's
again,
nothing wrong with
maybe
creating
I'm
another
naive
lane.
in that aspect. But I don't think there's anything wrong with creating another lane. Folks in the comments, talk to us about that if you think there is.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing wrong with creating another lane, but for some reason, professional entities and college entities feel there's a problem. I don't think so. I think that would be well welcomed. I think it would give them a platform to compete. I think they would be able to have their champion, and whatever that, in the transgender role and be talented. But now we don't have an unfair advantage. I'm gonna tell you right now, if a man hit my daughter right now,
that's where I was going.
I got a problem.
Come on, we got
I got a problem with it. Regardless if you used to be now, you a female now and you used to be a man. If a man at any point in his life hit my daughter, we got a problem.
Yep.
So they're trying to mask it behind being, they now identify and all these other things. You used to be a man, so you have a different body mass makeup. Regardless, doesn't matter. Regardless if you take hormones or not, you still have a different body mass makeup, so you have an unfair advantage. And I don't understand why that's not the pinpoint of the talks. Unfair advantage. We've always said in every sport, can't have an unfair advantage. Happened in baseball. Remember, home run when they had all the home runs.
Sammy Sosa.
Everybody got busted for steroids. Unfair advantage. You can't steroids. That's why they banned steroids out of football, because you can't have an unfair advantage. You can't take drugs like cocaine and all those other things like they used to do, because it's an unfair advantage when you're playing. You can't have an unfair advantage whether it's biological or you manufacture it. You want to make the playing fields even. So I have a problem with it. I don't know how it's going to flow in boxing. I don't even know how this is going to hold. It wasn't top headline, so that kind of worries me as well. Like, why was this buried in the back pages?
I had to dig a little bit to find any story that actually had this, and I've never used the dailywire.com as a reference, but that's where I found it. Well, it wasn't on ESPN, right? All ESPN today was talking about was Tyreek Hill's house catching fire. I'm glad everybody's okay there, but again, we prophesize in this, folks. We've talked about this, and it's 2024 now. In Paris, when it comes to the Olympics, and you got the whole world together, and you got all these top athletes, there's going to be conversation and questions about this, and how are we going to deal? It's going to be an embarrassment to the global stage if there's not something concrete put in place to deal with this. I'm a believer, just like Montel is right now, honestly, that there should be separate lane. And that would actually help with probably more identification, more conversation, more folks who feel this way that actually will come out and be comfortable. Nothing wrong with that at all. But again, once just because you start going through the process and now you want to compete with biological or born other genders, that's unfair.
It's unfair. I mean, it's just unfair. So I don't know how they're going to deal with it. I don't know how they're going to react to it and get it corrected. But there has to be something done in sports. And I would hope NCAA, with all the money they have, would be the leading the pack in this and identifying this and understanding it. They've done a great job in identifying, with Title IX, making sure there's enough women's sports, there's men's sports. They push that all the way down, all the way through the divisions. NCAA does the same thing. They make sure. So colleges are making that effort. I know this is a murky area with the transgender because how they identify, but who you identify is not who you biologically are. Oof. And I'll say it again. Now, who you identify with is not who you biologically are. So who you biologically are is what we need to go by in order to make things happen. You can say you were born a woman, but if you have, a testicles and a shaft, you're a man. So you need to identify that's what your identity is what you were born as. You can change yourself all different kind of ways. Michael Jackson was black, now and then before he died, he was white. So you can change your way anyway. It doesn't change the fact that you are who you biologically were born as. So I think that's kind of where it stands at.
Man.
Unfortunate, and that's unfortunate. And it doesn't, and that's the crazy part. I don't think because you create a lane doesn't alienate them. It doesn't. It does not alienate them. It just creates a different lane. For things to be okay in sports.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong. I think there are a certain amount of folks. There's going to be a minority, I think, of folks that do find that there's an issue with it and will have problems identifying and recognizing it. It'll be an asterisk, right? It'll be the Barry Bonds asterisk, right?
I'll say just like this: 10 years ago, we wouldn't see barely any girls basketball highlights on ESPN ever. It'd be the B reel. And they'll get some now. Now, with Don Staley.
I'm still watching Caitlyn Clark from last night. Yeah, I'm still watching her carry.
Caitlyn Clark. they are now headlining stories. Now so the change will eventually come. People will eventually accept it. It's just going to take a process to do it. Someone just has to step up and say, hey, we're carving this lane. This makes it easy for everybody. This makes it identifiable. It doesn't give anybody an unfair advantage. And we don't have all these other issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then play. I know the WNBA was saying they didn't have a problem with it. I remember at one point they said they didn't have. One of the players said we wouldn't have a problem with it or not. And I disagree with that. I think they're speaking in the moment, maybe defending the transgender community and all that stuff, and I think that's wonderful. But the bottom line, if you get male NBA players that want to transition and play in the WNBA, they're going to have an unfair advantage regardless of what you say.
But you can't have LeBron James, you can't have Anthony Davis out there running up and down with the LA Sparks.
Yeah,
you just can't do it.
And my thing, what goes to tell you, okay, if I identify as that, and I say I'm going through the process, what legal bounds do I say that I can't play at that point? I can be where's the measure point? I know this says you got to be a testosterone and all that stuff and everything like that, but I gotta wonder if this starts to melt into other sports, how is that measurable going to be? Because you have to measure it different for every sport.
Yes, you do.
You have to. There's no way you can't. You cannot have a person that's probably at low levels THC or whatever the prognosis is, and have them play in the WNBA game. They would, in my opinion, I think they would dominate, or they would really have a good career at the WNBA. They would change it. And my fear is at some point, the more transitions to come in, because they'll, I think a lot of them will win. They will start to ease or massage women out.
Wow.
Right. Really, I mean, because everybody wants to win it.
So they'll stop competing, wow, right?
Stop competing.
So nobody wins.
They don't want to compete. Yeah, they don't want to compete because it's unfair. It's to me, it's sad that you have to change yourself in order to compete to become a winner. If that's the case, I don't understand that. Why, if you're a biological male, and if you identify with understanding, so create another lane for them to participate in. But like the swimmer, he changed. He snuck. I don't know if he snuck in, but he went into women's sports. He dominated, and he celebrated, and he's braggadocious about what he did. But when you were swimming against other males, you were a consistently loser. You weren't competitive at all. You were really on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to that. So what is that mindset? I don't get it. I competed as a man, I don't do it. Okay, I decided to change myself. I have no problem with that. But now I compete in women's sport, and I'm a braggadocious person about it, and I'm winning against women because I have an unfair advantage.
Yeah, doesn't make sense at all. Doesn't make sense. So, hey, David Hunt, this is a story I put on the screen that sparked this whole conversation, and I think this is interesting as well here. This line right here: boxers under 18 years old must compete against others with the same sex, no matter their declaration of gender identity. The guideline also clarifies. And my wife was thinking and saying that, maybe it's because folks under the age of 18 maybe don't have access to the medical procedures or may not have access to folks that can actually help them with that transition. So, but I think that's interesting, right? Because again, we've talked about younger athletes as well, 16, 17, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Isn't that a form of discrimination?
That's where I was going to go. That's where I was going to go with it, right?
It is. Well, how are you going to discriminate people that are under 18 to compete when they're professionals, right? USA, you're on the verge of becoming a professional or a professional boxer.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to discriminate against somebody at that point? If they got the procedure done or they're doing it and they identify as that, based on your rules, they should be able to fight. Why under 18? Yeah, why is under 18 all of a sudden the cutoff mark? Why don't we make the cutoff mark under 25? Why don't we make it 30? Why don't we make it 35? I mean, you can't. That gauge doesn't make any sense to me. Why that piece was put in there? Like I said, I'll be interested to see U.S. boxing come out. I would hope ESPN, as they usually listen to our show, or somebody listens to our show, put this on blast and kind of figure it out and understand it. Put it on a national stage, because this is precedent. If this happens right here and it goes the way I'm sure they envision, which would be successful, don't think that other transgenders are not going to penetrate other markets to participate in.
It's going to be a big story, and no one else is talking about it except for us. And y'all just remember that.
And Daily Wire, gotta give shout to Daily Wire.
Daily Wire, that's true. They brought it up as well. Hey, let me put this up because my man is in the building who wanted to talk about, and this kind of goes into some of the sporting conversation as well. So Tony Davis, thank you for being here, man. He says, I don't honk in the times we're living in. People do not want to be part of a process They want to go along with what is morally acceptable. Man, this is going back to when Russia was dominating in the Olympics in the 80s. It is, right? It's not a cyclical conversation. This is a brand new conversation, but it's one of those groundbreaking foundational conversations that now is, you can't sweep it under the rug anymore, right? You got to have this
Yeah.
conversation. So, but Tony brought up some things when I first posted about us going live tonight, kind of back to, so this is a story that we've talked about before, but again, now let's talk about the money piece. Because I think somewhere even within this story right here, there's a money piece. There's an NIL piece, right? There's either for the schools and the universities themselves, but also for the athletes. So let's go back to let's leave boxing out of it. Let's go back to the athlete who's the swimmer, and let's talk about NIL from that perspective. Was losing when he was swimming with the guys.
And now he's transitioned. He's getting
Now
all
he's
kinds of
transitioned and he's winning. I haven't
endorsements.
checked and see if he's been getting any deals or anything, or if he's got any endorsements or sponsorships. But again, think about that whole thing. And is the athlete themselves being identified properly when it comes to signing these contracts and getting this deal? Does the swimmer and the boxer now have a deal with Gatorade? And does it matter that they are identified as a different sex?
I think there is a market for it, and I think there will create a lane in the advertisement realm and paying them eventually, because there's so many wanting to participate in sports and be dominant in it. Again, but we're not now. I think everyone's fearful because, again, if you endorse a transgender athlete, which I think some of them will probably get endorsement, if you endorse them, you got to run the risk that other people will back out from it, and other people will be fearful because, again, they have an unfair advantage in competing against women as of right now that we know about. Competing against women. So the NIL piece will play an important, huge piece in all of this, because now we're talking about dollars and cents and paying athletes and whatnot. Just like every community has a face, someone's going to be the face of the transgender community. We have a face of Black community, we have a face of white athletes and females, and so on and so on. Someone's going to be the face of the transgender community, and obviously that's a large community. So there's money to be there to endorse. You got to think those people that will support that person will buy jerseys, they will buy tickets, they will buy.
They will get an endorsement from Chick-fil-A.
Maybe not. I mean, maybe not Chick-fil-A,
right.
But there's no reason.
And I bring Chick-fil-A up. Montel knows. I bring Chick-fil-A, but for the audience as well, they've already had out in public conversations about this whole category, and where Chick-fil-A will send their corporate dollars, and they won't support athletes who identify as someone else. So again, that's big money right there. That's big corporate money.
That is, but I mean, Anheuser-Busch will. They've done it. They're out there in the community,
and they caught a ton of flack for it. They caught a ton of flack.
They took a lot of flack for it, but no one stops drinking Budweiser. Budweiser's still selling billions of dollars worth of beer, and there's nobody gonna stop drinking beer just because that. You can be upset about. I mean, it's funny. We can be upset about all the things that we want, and we can almost be blasphemy about it. But at some point, we're gonna have to accept it and learn how to adjust and pivot. And I think sports right now, where that was kind of the one, like, okay, we know this lane is kind of, it's going the way we want to. We got men and women's sports all the way around, and now we introduce this third category of transgender. Now it's throwing a caveat and everything. And I more than NIL, how does Title IX play in this?
Yes.
All of a sudden,
where do you? What side of the fence? What side of the conference table do you sit at when it comes to rights,
equality? It's all about equality at this point,
right?
How
do you get part of the door, or all that stuff? All that stuff.
I mean, I think. Well, with Title IX, I think it's all about equality.
It's mainly about equality and pay.
Yeah. So with Title IX coming in, okay, do you have to have the same number of transgender sports as you have as women and men? Is it possible?
It's a real question. It's not a flippant question. I think someone who's not paying attention will think that's just a flippant question, but that's a real question.
Yeah. Because you got to think schools like Santa Clara, Sonoma, Humboldt State, they lost their football programs due to Title IX. They did, because they couldn't equal out the sports. Long Beach State, another one, popular one. UC Riverside, all those are schools in California, big time schools that had programs that they couldn't compete in the Title IX. Now, you not only can't compete in the Title IX, you bring in a transgender athletes or transgender sports. Does that fall under the Title IX? Everyone has to be equal. You have to have the same number of scholarships for everybody across the board. If football's getting 50 scholarships, guess what? Transgender athletes going to get 50 scholarships, and so on and so on. I don't have the answer. I'm just spitting out what I know. Those are other issues that have to come around. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. At the collegiate level, at the high school level, at some point they have to accept it, right? You're going to have to be able to say transgender athletes can participate in this category of transgender, not women and not men.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You can't. It can't be integrated, man. It's not. This is not the civil rights movement. You can't integrate us all because we're not. Because there's an unfair advantage, right? It's a super unfair advantage when it comes to competitive sports. So,
I like where
I don't know.
I was gonna say I like where the conversation in the comments is going, because I don't agree with the politics, but I think Caitlyn Jenner unofficially is a spokesperson for this movement, right?
But she said, but she already said, I don't agree with it.
I think a statement needs to come from Caitlyn Jenner. Honestly, somewhere either left, right, or center. But and I don't think she wants to be the spokesperson. But again, I think from the statute and from being who she was, fastest person out there, can throw, can jump, run, all that stuff, right? When Caitlyn was Bruce, she won all the medals.
The greatest triathlete,
right? Won all the medals. And here we are talking about exactly what he did, and now it's happening on a larger scale. I think Caitlyn needs to come out and say something. And I don't agree with Caitlyn's politics when she was running for governor or anything like that. But there needs to be a statement from someone within the community as opposed to always coming from us, external.
Well, I believe she made a statement before that she didn't agree with transgenders competing against females. She said she didn't agree with that. That shouldn't be the case. But you can't say that's not the case and I have an alternative or have an answer, right? You can't say, hey, can't bring something to the forefront, especially in the position she's in, and I have an answer or have an alternative or have a suggestion to correct itself. I'm more worried about more so college has enough money to fix it. They'll figure it. The colleges, I think, will figure it out. I'm more worried about high school sport because at the point, this is where the point's going to get to, and I truly believe this. A transgender athlete is going to want to compete. They're going to not be allowed to compete. They're going to sue the school and sue CIF, and then they're going to. Then that means that's going to disband those athletes or that school being able to participate in sports. Period, all the way around. And I can see that happening over and over and over and over again in a lot of schools because I think some schools are going to say, no, you can't participate, you can't do this and that. Now, the ones that do participate and allow them to participate, other schools are probably going to say we forfeit. We don't agree with it, we're not going to play. So we're going to run into this big collision at the high school level to, I think, the point to where Supreme Court is going to have to get involved. Honestly, it's going to go up the scales to get involved because you can see it from both sides, right? This person just wants to compete. They identifies this. They want to compete in that level. These people are saying that's unfair. Where does the law lay? We can all have an opinion, but it's going to have to be a law that's going to be put in place.
It is.
I think that's what's going to have to happen in the next 5 years. It's got to be a law because we're obviously not able to figure it out now.
Yeah, we can't do it, right? The outsiders looking in who aren't as invested in the conversation because it hasn't, for some of us, it hasn't directly touched us as much as others, right? I don't have an athlete that's out there participating who's looking at male versus female, that kind of thing. So I don't have a, I don't want to say a dog in the game, but you know what I'm saying? But I don't have, so that kind of thing, some more external, and we're Monday morning quarterbacking it. But again, I think someone like a Caitlyn Jenner needs to come out, and apparently even from this story that I got here on the screen right here, she is saying she opposes trans girls in women's sports, thinks it's unfair. Yeah. So there could be at least the beginning of the dialogue from someone who's in that community. So and it can go either way.
Ever since she made that statement, they don't ask her about this at all. I haven't heard her conversation about this at all. Any other conversation?
Yeah, it's been in 2021.
Been 2020, so 2 years, almost 1 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Which we you said 2 years we brought it 3 years ago because we brought it out when it first started.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago when this happened and they brought that statement, have you heard anything from Caitlyn Jenner about this subject? And this subject just getting hotter and hotter. It's not cooling off at all.
Hot.
They haven't. So I think they don't appreciate her opinion on it. I think the powers that be, obviously, headlines, right? This causes controversy, period. Regardless of what you want to say or not. Everybody wants likes. Everybody wants hits. So when you spur this out, you put these
you
things
and
out
I, we
there.
just want to have the conversation, and we go. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna put pause on this because I'm gonna be cognizant of time because I know you got some things to do. But folks, this is
yeah,
where we go on. So let's continue to have this conversation. You know, we're gonna do our research. We're gonna continue to track this and see where it goes because again, this is not the first, not the second. It's not even the last time we're gonna have this conversation. No, who knows? Next week we're gonna talk about it some more. Now,
absolutely.
man, let me take a breath. You watched them games? You watched them the college football games last week?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Man,
oh yeah.
shouts out to Michigan. Shouts out to Michigan.
Shouts out to Washington.
But they yeah. Penix Jr.
Man,
He's a bad
Penix put
man.
on the show.
Penix is a
Penix put on
bad
the
dude.
show.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah.
But I was definitely rooting for Michigan. The story.
Okay.
All right. I like the story and Harbaugh, sir, he did his time for whatever crime. He knew what that neither here nor there, but just to end the season, what 14-0?
Both of them 14-0. Washington
14.
and both
That's
teams are
dope.
14-0.
Yeah, so that's
So it's funny. We always complain about the college playoffs, but it actually got it. I think it's kind of got it right on this one. Two teams both 14-0. You could talk about, people would always talk about how weak the Pac-12 was or whatever. Pac-12 is not weak this year. We had more than 80% was ranked in the top 25 at some point in time in the rankings. So that's not a weak conference. Washington's ever prevail, win that conference. Go to, play against Texas, which I don't think Texas is Alabama, but they played against Texas.
Yeah.
And Penix put on the show. Michigan was supposed to be in this spot, right? This was Harbaugh's year. Everything was clicking. He got suspended. Everything was still clicking. Came back. Things were still clicking. They were still dominating. And all honestly, Harbaugh, that last call by Alabama running that quarterback sneak is a questionable call. I don't know who
That's
called
a
that.
bad call. So I was going to ask you about that. I mean, come on, Coach Saban. Come on, Coach Saban. You know better than that. That was not a good call.
Well, I seen on the thing they're calling to get the OC fired for that call because he made that call at the end. But to be honest with you, I don't know. The OC is not as much his fault as the quarterback because he rushed it. As soon as he tried to run it in, you're supposed to wait for it to develop and open up, then take off and go. I still think it was a bad call. I don't think it was the right call to do. But
because he tripped over his guard, I think. I mean, right near the end, he tripped over his guard's leg. But yeah, that was just not a smart call for them to call at that particular point of the game.
Okay, but you know what? I don't feel bad for none of them. I was this is crazy. So I was arguing. So me and my brother-in-law was over their house and was watching it, and we were trying to say, well, how much does the winner of the national championship get? The school. They don't pay the game doesn't pay you, but you get percentages of TV time and all this stuff.
Yeah,
it's estimated the winner will get $79 million for one game. 79 is actually 79.1 million for one game. So you're asking athletes that you don't really pay a lot of money, right? We know they only get paid from NIL, they get their stipend money, and yet the school's going to get 79 million for participating in that one game. That doesn't tell you what they participated in that last game they just played. I don't know how much they made playing in that game to get to the semifinals, and I don't know how much they get paid for playing in the SEC or the ACC championship, which are all big players, big time, TV time, money, and all those. So I believe the estimate that the school's going to make for having a good football team at that Power 5 level and making it to the playoffs is probably somewhere around 150 to 100 to 200 million. They're going to make. Now, people don't think college football.
You got me choking over here. Yep.
Yeah. So people don't think college football is important in the way this thing goes. It's bigger than what people think it is. The schools that are good and can potentially make it in the Alabama, remember, won it 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row. Think about it. That's $200 million each year. That's $600 million he made for the school in 3 years. That's Amazon money.
That's real money too, and that check count that you can cash that check, right? Because you're gonna get that money, and a lot of that is gonna go. We know a majority of that goes to the school, but a lot of that goes to the coach too, right? I mean,
it goes to the coach. Yeah, it goes to the coach, the facilities, athletic department.
Yeah,
you're
gonna get a new
all
office.
These different. Yeah. So people get why these college coaches getting paid so much money. They're making $200 million in 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even to mention the money they made all the way getting up to those games. That's all those 3 games, they'll make over $200 million plus. And they probably said estimated even more because this is going to be a big game because the West Coast and then Michigan's going to be there, which they always got a strong following. And since the Minnesota Pac-12, Washington's gonna have a strong following as well going to this game. Man, it's a lot of money in college
A lot of
football.
money, a lot of real
A
money,
lot of
right?
money that people don't realize. Yeah, they don't realize that they want to talk about it and they want to be like, it's a lot of money. And that's why people like Nick Saban get upset about NIL money, because he can't get the athletes that he wants to get. That's why Utah can give every player that's on scholarship a F-150, brand new off the lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much money that's going into these programs and being paid. It's unreal what they can afford this stuff. I mean, I don't know no one is gonna make $200 million off of three 6-hour events.
Going to work for 6 hours and making money like that, right?
Make money like that.
It's hard to fathom, and I think common folks, I mean, regular folks, we can't fathom that money. But let me ask you what you think about the game. So next week we got Michigan against Washington. Again, both 14-0 schools,
Mm-hmm.
Great coaches on both ends, great QBs on both ends. Penix was what, second runner-up for the Heisman.
Yep.
He's got a chip on his shoulder because he thinks he should have won it, and he's gone through so much. Again, so I talk about stories. He's gone through so much of going from different schools and being injured, and now coming back, and now he's on the the 9th floor heading to the 10th floor. He's trying to get there, and he's got his ticket to Houston. Who you got in the game?
I want Washington to win. I really do want Washington, and I'm going to be rooting for Washington. But I don't know how they're going to better stop that Michigan D-line.
Yeah.
That part's, Alabama figured it out towards the second half. I mean, towards the second quarter and kind of during the game, they figured out how to go ahead and do it. But I think, if I'm a betting man, my heart's going with Washington, but if I'm a betting man, I'll probably go with Michigan, to be honest with you. Now, and that's no disrespect to anyone. I like both teams, because both teams do a lot of good things together. Yeah. They do different things that I like that are very good. Penix is amazing, and he's going to have to be equally amazing in the championship game in order for them to win. Now, I do think Michigan's going to have a problem with Washington's speed. If they can figure out a way to buy Penix time, Michigan's in trouble. They'll be in trouble. But, again, I don't know how they do that, because Alabama, I don't know if anybody watched that first quarter or that first couple of series. Man, Michigan, Alabama scored on that one long run, but beyond that, man, they were smothering all over Alabama.
Did not look like a normal Saban team at all, and I was concerned about it. And I just only imagine what that locker room felt like at halftime.
You know what? I don't think Alabama has nothing to hang their head about. To be honest with you, they did what they were supposed to do. They got to think, man. We're down to one play. One play calls it, man, and we just made the wrong play. It's kind of funny. Nick Saban, unfortunately, this time was on the wrong side of somebody calling the wrong play, right?
Yeah.
For them to getting in, but I mean, for them to be able to come with that one loss, basically was out of the playoffs. They end up beating Georgia. They get into the playoffs, and then they get here and they lose. Man, one play. I mean, come on, man. I mean, people could be mad and fanatical about it all, but the fact that they were being dominated the whole game and they got it down to one play, we still have a chance to win this game, and we're down to one play, and we just messed up. I think they don't have anything to hold their heads low for anything. I think the problem is Nick Saban. Alabama's going to figure out how they're going to be able to reload and be able to compete next year, because Michigan's going to be solid again. Ohio State's going to be solid again. We already said what Florida State can do when they're healthy. They can ball. Georgia's not going anywhere. Mississippi State now just took a bunch of, I think, Alabama staff to go over there. They're going to Mississippi State. So that's going to be now another contender. And now you got the absorption of all these Pac-12 teams going to these other schools. It's going to be a whole other different dynamic in every conference.
Transfer portal. You haven't even mentioned the transfer portal, right?
Portal, and guys, the NIL money for the top 5 athletes, the top 5-star athletes that's coming out of high school. Man, it's crazy. This is worse than NFL, right?
Yes.
The college frenzy of free agency and the way things go is worse than NFL, but great for fans. Fans love it, right? Them are having a ball with it. But
yeah, I had to think about that for a second. But yeah, I think there's more, and I don't know. I would love to see some stats. I think there's more attention to college athletics and sports than even a lot of professional athletics. Because I'm literally not even watching too many NBA games right now. I'm watching again, like say Caitlyn Clark hit that logo 3 the other night. I'm watching that game instead of everything else. Let me do this. So my call is for Michigan. I was born in Michigan. Shouts out to the Big Den. I'm gonna be.
Yep.
I got a Michigan hat around here somewhere. I'm aware, and that'll be our gentleman's bet.
Yeah. I'll take Washington in the game. Then
Okay,
we'll bet soda on. We'll bet. No, what? Well, actually, we'll bet a dinner while we're in Vegas for
yes,
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, and we're gonna be
Super Bowl.
rocking our
We'll bet a
team no
good.
sleep gear. Again, I want to be cognizant of time, so I'm keeping us on point. Montel Allen has some things to get into this evening. We touched on some subjects, y'all, and there's still some loose ends, I know, and that's on purpose, right? We're just giving you a little bit. Hopefully, you can come back with some more dialogue, Tony. Hopefully, we touched on what you wanted us to talk about. Shirley in the building, Marvin, David Hunt, Mr. Watkins, appreciate you. Mr. Hicks, I see you in the building as well, and everyone else who's listening and watching, man. We're going to talk about some other things next week for sure. I want to get into, I want to start getting into the Olympics conversation, and not just kind of where we have always been, but I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the sports that are coming in the Olympics and where you think the U.S. fits in the whole global sporting arena. How much are you going to be watching? You going to watch
Yeah.
skateboarding?
No. I'm the typical
that kind of thing.
track and field, hoop and boxing. But I mean, I will be interested in watching some other sports. I mean, it's interesting. We're gonna have flag football now for
Yeah,
women
see
to be in
those
the
kind of we got some cool sports coming to the Olympics. And, what do you think about that?
To me, you say sports, I say competition.
Oh
That's
my
some
God!
interesting
See, there you
competitions
go. See,
coming up.
that's what we're gonna get into.
No, 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 no,
I'm
no,
just
no,
feeding
no.
you with it. I'm just
I'm
feeding
telling
you.
you right now. I think women's flag football is probably going to be the next boom sport. I can promise you that. We just had an All-Star game for women's
Wow.
football. It was probably one of the best games I ever seen at a high school level, and the women take it very serious, and they very love their craft.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the next booming sport. But 5-on-5 is a little really difficult to have. I think it should be traditional 7-on-7 to open up the field and let these athletes showcase their talent. And then my question with that is, how far behind is the world, because they don't play football? Like, they don't really play football like that.
Okay. That's a good point.
At least our girls in the U.S. are introduced to it and watching it from a young age and
Yeah.
seeing it and going through it. I'm not quite sure how it is globally in that retrospect. And like someone said, pickleball is going to be huge. Which I don't know
Pickleball
how
is
that's
pickleball in
going.
the
I
Olympics?
watched.
Come
I
on,
watched it.
don't make that up. Is pickleball in
No,
the
no, no.
Olympics?
Pickleball's dope. I seen it, but
Man,
it's
no,
like
it
over
ain't. That's
to
not a
me.
real
To
sport,
me,
is it?
it's an overzealous that ping pong. Like ping pong is dope for the Olympics. Them dudes
Yeah, that's true. I don't know how they
that's
get them balls
that
curving like that, but
that's on a whole other level. That ping pong. So I hope pickleball can get that. I hope they can. I know they got a lot of fans. A lot of people play it, and I know they have doubles and singles, and people are getting into it. To me, it's that mixture of ping pong and tennis, right? It's kind of a mixture on a smaller court, condensed, and you got to play in it. So I'm interested to see how that kind of plays itself out. I don't know. Again, I know U.S. has been introduced to it
yeah.
from young age and kind of developing. I don't know how it is globally. I don't know what they do globally in playing
No, we gonna
pickleball.
kill them in everything. We gonna dominate.
We ain't gonna. I can promise you,
Pickleball,
we won't win the ping
skateboarding.
pong. We're not gonna win the ping pong. Hey man, the
uh,
Japanese is on that ping. I was watching one the other day, man. Them dudes, that's amazing what they do in ping pong. I don't know how you stand that far back and you can hit that little plastic ball, make it spin, and that to me, that's so amazing as athletes that they can do that. So, and what I mean by competition, that's what I mean by competition. I don't know if it's an actual sport because I don't know how competitive it's going to be at this point. I don't really know how competitive it's going to be with these new sports being introduced because we don't know.
We'll see.
So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not gonna have a special. I'm not gonna have wear any merch for a pickleball team or a badminton team.
Come on, man,
We'll
you supposed to be on that Team USA.
I'll watch me some. What's the one with the brush and the broom on the ice?
That's winter games, man. That ain't summer
but
games.
what's the name of that sport?
I know you're talking about when they roll up like the flat bowling ball.
That's dope. I don't know why. I can sit there and watch that like paint drying. Shirley P in here talking
Man,
about she got her
you
kids.
like
So
baseball. That's
appreciate.
why. That's because you like
See,
baseball.
okay, there it is. We done now. Go ahead and take us home, brother. Go ahead and take us home.
Hey, everyone, welcome to 2024 Team No Sleep. We're gonna come at you really hard, raw, and unfiltered this year. Definitely special with us being in the Super Bowl. But again, like we always say, please be comfortable having uncomfortable conversations because that's the way we learn.
We
Peace.
out.